And I don't
Yeah.
feel like I feel like sorry, that doesn't really make sense. The aspect of a video game doesn't make me depressed or anything like that. It's when I feel like I'm separating myself from everything because of video games that I get really down on
That's
my
fair.
luck.
I
Oh yeah.
felt
Yeah,
like,
I'd agree
especially if
with
you're like
that.
on like a Sunday or something,
Yeah.
and like you're like
Yeah.
playing. I like a couple weeks ago I played like 4 hours of Borderlands 2 with Trent, and I was like, well, my friend Trent, also from high school. Sorry, this is context.
Yeah.
This is a podcast context thing.
Yeah.
But like I had realized like I hadn't spent any time with my family that day, and I was like, man, I kind of feel like crap because of it.
Yeah,
So that's
totally.
definitely an aspect. But honestly, that just makes me want to spend more time with my family. And usually in the next couple days, I'll do that, and it just ends up feeling better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The biggest thing I've always thought is how you balance it. We were kind of talking about this earlier, but um, I a couple months ago, back in the spring, I was at a really low point with my own mental health, and I really tried to use video games and kind of congruently like this Discord to fill that role, really that hole in my life that I had. And I realized how unhealthy that was after a couple months, and I had to take a break from it. And I felt bad, like I missed hanging out with you guys. Like I miss you guys are some of my closest friends, but at the same time I was playing video games way more than I was doing anything else. Like my grades suffered, all of my friendships suffered. IRL work life was terrible, and I don't think video games were the cause of that. It's definitely how I use
Yeah.
them. Less the game itself, it was what I wanted from it.
Yeah. And I can
I mean,
definitely tell when we play, in a at least for me, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but whenever I play in a sense, and when I'm like upset, it just gets worse and worse, and I start screaming and shouting, and it ultimately just kind of is a snowball effect.
Yeah, I feel like playing games while you're tilted or upset never ends well.
No,
Because you're
well, it
yeah.
either
depends on
just
what type
gonna
of game
point
you
out
play,
everything
though.
bad in the game while you do well, or you're not gonna do well and then get upset.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you and I are probably the biggest sufferers of that because I don't know
I
how you
mean,
are like right now with mental health, but when we play games, sometimes it doesn't really sound the best because it's just upsetting.
well, I'd say me and you are definitely more competitive, so we try
Yeah.
to play more competitive games other than Dewey and Alex, who usually just play to have fun and hang out. And I think that's one thing that I probably get into more is playing to have fun and enjoy myself instead of in playing to be competitive or get better or get good.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised, Sam, with how you manage to do both at the same time. Like, you can be doing like really well in a game, but like I don't really get the sense that you're like trying that hard. At least like when we were playing Crucible yesterday, like you were just kind of hanging out, and like
I
you were still
mean,
dropping like 3 bombs like all the time.
but it's just like that's
Like, were
always
you were you trying there, or were you just like doing
the last
stuff?
two games I did, but that's only because I
Okay.
was tilted because the
Uh,
that one game
Lawrence.
just made me unhappy. But
I was just curious to know if like you're just really good at hiding that you're trying super hard, or if you're
oh
just that
no.
good. I was curious.
Well, it's a happy balance between like all things because I feel like some people play the game to be
Good.
like be good, right? To get better. I know a lot of people play Valorant to play like that because they want to like rank up the queue system. I want to go from iron to bronze to silver to diamond, you know?
Yeah.
And that's fun and all, but I feel like it really tears on your mental health to play like that.
Yeah, I mean I
Oh
totally
yeah.
agree. I was gonna go there because
And
I like being
yeah,
obsessed with rank and like because I there's so many kids on Valorant where you play with them and they're like especially with Smurfs is they get mad because they're trying super hard and they can't succeed and it seems like everyone who does do that me included is avoiding the stress of competitive playing.
Oh,
I
well,
mean,
a good example of that is you remember in Destiny when like a couple months ago they started throwing your seasonal KD at the beginning of every match,
Oh,
and like
season
I
of
had
the
a bad week
KD.
because of it. Because like seeing your KD fluctuate that much and being able to not being able to avoid it and just kind of put it in the back of your mind, that's super unhealthy for me. And I
I
was just
think
Yeah.
like
that
seeing myself get worse and worse, and it was just like, oh man, what am I doing?
it really throws, like, it shows you how more competitive games are getting. Like,
Yeah.
you remember back in the day when PlayStation 2 or Wii or like PlayStation 1 came out and you were playing Spyro or like Lego Star Wars. Nobody was competitive.
Yeah, no.
Nobody cared.
The only
And it was
competitive
just
thing was speed.
having a good time playing split screen on an old TV and just having a good time. And now that gaming has evolved into esports and competition and all that, I feel like a lot of it has gotten less fun and more detrimental to mental health for a lot of people through the ages of, I'd say, like 8 to 25, just because that's where gaming usually hits hardest in kids' lives.
Yeah.
And kids want to get good. Kids see people that are crazy good and they're like, I want to be that. And then the amount of time you have to put in or the amount of talent that somebody else had, you have to try to match that. And if you don't match that, it's almost like the Instagram model to regular person debate, I'd consider
Yeah,
it.
I agree. Cause like, okay, so the perfect example for me is yesterday when we play. We're playing a series of 7, 8 games of competitive game, and in the middle of it, we get to play 3 streamers, who are by and large better than us in every aspect of the game.
Yeah.
Is that fun or is that not fun? I would have to say no, it's not fun because it takes all of the enjoyment of, even if you are beating people, and they're
Yep.
worse than you, it still takes away the enjoyment of competition and
Yeah.
and how to and even if there is no competition in solo, no one wants to play a game every day just to have to take a shower right after.
Exactly. And it's like that game that we played, right? We every single one of us has a day job or goes to school or has classes and goes to college and has all this other time they have to invest in other things in their life because they want to do other things. And then you go online to chill out after a long day at work or school or whatever you have during your day. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to vibe out and play some competitive. And then you get on and you have to play some professional who hasn't left his chair for the past 8 hours, who's been playing this game since he was 14, and all he's doing is just stomping every single person in his path, and nobody enjoys that.
No.
I think to some
Nobody
aspect they don't even enjoy that because they're
exactly
doing it for
because
money at that point.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say I don't know. I feel like being a streamer is something I definitely never want to do.
Like
I feel like that'd be
they
so
seem like they're
boring.
happy and stuff, but you see
They
all these streamers all the time taking massive breaks and stuff because they have all
Yep,
these mental health issues. It's
exactly,
just
and
like
it's
the
just
same thing.
it sounds horrible. It really does.
Yeah.
And
And I don't think that that's them playing games. I don't think a COD streamer is going to play Call of Duty and be like, "Oh my gosh, Call of Duty is ruining my mental health." They're going
I think
to
I've seen that.
I mean, maybe.
Well, because it's
I
not the game
mean,
that's
I think
doing
it's
it.
because maybe it's the time commitment they've put into it is what's
And
ruining
they,
it,
they don't
not the
really
game
have as
itself.
much social interaction with other people at that point
Exactly.
because you're
Yeah,
streaming all the time.
we like to
The
call it
thing
the
is,
infamous sunk cost fallacy of you've put so much time into this game, like you have to play it because otherwise all that time is wasted. But nowadays that game is filled with, because it's been so long out for so long, filled with sweats and people who are just not necessarily the best people because they've all the good people have realized that it's not really that fun.
That's fair.
All right, dude, you're gonna say something. Sorry.
what was I gonna say? Oh, with streamers specifically, I was thinking about this earlier when Sam was talking. Like the pressure to perform just gets astronomical. Like Jack, I know yesterday a big reason you were getting so frustrated is because you're a good player. I'm not even you and Sam are definitely the two of the best like Crucible players that we have like in our Discord. And it wasn't your best day. I've seen you play better, but so I bet like that affected you a little bit. It like makes you more mad because you know that you can do better, but it just wasn't happening. And there's no way streamers don't feel that way. That like they have an off day and that affects like their mental health and they get frustrated.
Oh yeah,
Like it's this that's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
it's a. I almost consider it is like the ball keeps rolling. It happens a lot in Valorant. If you keep playing competitive games back to back, we call it tilt queuing, where you queue into a match tilted from the last match, and you're already upset.
You dick.
Already gonna play worse, and your
Yeah.
mental health is already lower than it should be, and you're going into a game worse than you usually are. And the chances are you're gonna lose that match because you're so tilted from the last match, and that'll roll into the next match. So it really is just a slope.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've honestly been thinking about this comparison between competitive games and say less competitive games recently, because like I know that you and Jack are big competitive gamers,
Oh
but
yeah.
me as somebody that's not quite there all the time, um, with a sort of a non-competitive game, one that's like co-op or one that's more single player, you get a more consistent experience that's gonna like relax you more.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you're winning in a competitive game, that's an experience that's unmatched. It's
Oh
so much
yeah.
fun. But
There's
you have the
nothing.
opportunity that you could not do well that night and you
Oh
would just get
yeah.
mad. So
There's
it's like
nothing
a
better.
50-50 versus like an experience that's good but not as good as it could be if you were playing a competitive game.
I'd 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
So it all depends on what you're feeling that night
Uh,
and what you want to risk. If you feel like you are okay with having the possibility of having a bad night that night.
yeah. I
And I feel
totally
like
agree.
if I was just healthier as a person and I could accept losing more, then I'd be a lot happier. But that's just part of the human condition. Nobody likes to
Yeah.
lose.
Yeah, and I think too, games. Speaking of condition, is games kind of condition you to hate losing, because you lose a game and you get less rewards, or you
I
just
wouldn't
don't
say
get.
that in like Destiny though.
Maybe not in Destiny, but definitely in Valorant, if you lose, you get less XP, and
Oh, okay.
like I know it's a real big thing in Siege, because to unlock a lot of the characters you have to get a certain currency you get from winning, and if you don't win, obviously you get like half as much, and it just takes so much longer. So not only are you spending more time playing the game, but you're also spending it malding because you can't win. Which, I mean, that happened to me. I lost like 20 games in a row, and I think it's that tilt queuing where like every time it's like, okay, next game, I'm good at this game. Next game I could win, but ultimately I was just worse and worse. And then you sit back and take your break like Dewey did, and then you come back and it's something different completely. So
I feel like that's something that gaming has helped me a lot with. Is that if you don't have, especially in competitive games, that all right, let's run it back. Let's forget about the last game. Let's do it again and play like it never happened kind of mindset. Like you're not gonna have a good time and it's gonna destroy your
That's so
mental
true.
health. Like having that mindset helps you so much in life too when you have a bad day at work or a bad day on a test or at school and you don't have that all right, let's just run it back, we'll get it next time, let's do it better next time, let's work harder next time kind of mindset, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, I think that goes a lot into like mental health and depression really go hand in hand with comparison and how you compare yourself to others around you and or perfectionism in general.
That's a good point.
And that's something I have always struggled with is trying to be like a perfectionist. And if I'm not good at something, like I'm not going to try. Um, and separate, kind of having like that mindset of just like let's just run it back. Um, so helpful in everything. Um, there's TV show I really like, Ted Lasso. I'd recommend everyone go watch it. Fabulous. But there's this quote about like the animal with the shortest memory is a goldfish, and how you should always try to be a goldfish and just forget things and move on. Because I mean, like let's video games. Like Sam was saying, like if you dwell on the past, the last game that just happened, you're not gonna. If you're thinking about the last game, how are you gonna play in the game that's right now? Like if you're beating yourself up over something that already happened, then like you're not gonna keep going.
Yeah, and that echoes true into real life. If something bad
Exactly.
happens and you let yourself just think about it, you just can't stop. You just can't stop, and it's a vicious cycle of self-hate and loathing, and it's perpetuated by video games because I come home from bad days at school and I load up my computer and I'm sure everyone sat in Destiny and looked at the menu and just closed the game immediately because they're like, I just don't want to play this right now.
Yeah,
And
I
that's I think is a
agree.
Times.
I think that's a sign of
So guilty,
probably
man.
being above this system of letting games control your life and using them as a poor conduit for getting better. But still, I mean, like the initial reaction is just to go sit in front of my computer screen and do nothing. So
Yeah.
Because at least sitting in front of your computer screen isn't gonna make things worse. It's
yeah, exactly. And
not gonna make anything better.
yeah,
But
and I don't wanna get bleak on it because I think the the essence of this is you can use video games to increase mental health. It just depends on how you do it. Because
oh
going
yeah,
back to how I think you guys are better friends than a lot of people I know in real life, it's because the other night I can have a talk with Alex and our friend Owen because I feel more comfortable talking to them about things rather than sitting down in front of someone and having that conversation. And if that's a bad thing, then
No, I
whatever.
100% agree with you. I
yeah,
probably say that I talk a lot better to people over Discord and stuff like that just because I'm doing something else and my mind
Yeah.
isn't necessarily on the conversation the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, right now I've been running around Mirror's Edge. I've done laps around the same area. I've seen the same thing like 4 times. But do I care? No, because what's going on? This game is not very interesting. There's not many areas you can go to, and it's my favorite game. So does that mean that a game with nothing in it is going to make me feel better or worse? No, it's how I'm playing the game. I'm having a good time running through doors and jumping off walls.
I think we can also acknowledge that I'll be honest, we're very blessed in like our Discord friend group that is very healthy friendships. To be
Yeah.
That's
honest, like
fair.
I mean, we are sitting here on a Saturday afternoon talking about our mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's not something that I know a lot of people can't say. Like I know plenty of people that play video games by themselves, but
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
think
Especially with men too. Like
oh yeah, there's such a
video games
stigma there.
are definitely more male dominated, but I like the fact that more women are getting into it.
No,
That's
I
Um,
mean
right.
that's
That's
Okay.
funny terminology.
Whoa,
he
man.
has a good point because
He does have a
the
good point.
typical male thing to do is to never tell your friends that you're struggling is to
it's true.
make it
Yeah.
seem like you're alpha male, which is a
Hmm.
problem that like I had when I was playing games. Like when we were playing, it wasn't so much with you guys, but it was when we played with Fringed, is he's not very good at the game. And when I'm upset at myself, I then project that onto him and yell at him for doing bad in a video game, which
Yeah.
is an
No, I get
unhealthy
that.
behavior.
For
I do
sure.
the same thing with my brother.
I mean, Jack's just easy to yell at, but
Oh.
Yeah.
It's not a roast
Nah,
show,
I shouldn't
man.
do that. He's a great kid.
he's
But I've known him for so long. He's my brother. We can do
yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very true.
I totally
uh,
get what you mean though.
how do you
Yeah,
guys
that's
feel about? Sorry,
no.
Go
like
ahead.
You're
single
much more
player
on topic.
games
Keep
because we've
going.
been talking about competitive games a lot. How do you guys feel about the single player immersement? Like having a rough day at work, coming home and immersing yourself in a completely like different world, a different pixelated world, just to fill your mind with something that's completely away from your life and focused on storytelling or
Yeah.
an amusement such as that.
Feel like to
I
get entertainment out of a game like that for me, at least when I'm getting home after a long day, I need some sense of progression. So even if in the day I haven't necessarily done as much or been as productive as I've wanted to, I can at least feel productive virtually.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think it's
That's a good
go
point.
ahead.
I mean, for me, it's I play Dark Souls, and that's not a relaxing game at all by any means. But would I rather play Dark Souls than a competitive game? Most likely, yes, because I think it's what you make of the video game rather than something that you know is inherently going on within it, meaning single player versus multiplayer. I think I enjoy Dark Souls because I like that story element that's driven, and I like Mirror's Edge because it's pretty and it's fun to run around. Uh, and I imagine myself in those situations rather than, just like sitting back and mind-numbingly playing them.
I think I might have a different opinion on this than the others. I love single player games. Um, some of my favorite games of all time are all story driven, and the gameplay is kind of lame, but I really do love me a good story, and I'll stand by that till the day I die. But I think something I've noticed with myself, I got super into Final Fantasy 14 at the beginning of the summer, and that was right about the time that I noticed I was starting to notice how obsessed with like immersing myself and getting away from what was happening like IRL. And I think there is something to say about the story element of games really being able to lose yourself. Like it really does can take away from what's going on in real life because you get to be a character that has facing completely fake and different problems from your own instead of having to deal with that. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's healthy or unhealthy. I think it also goes into back to the games are only or a game is only what you make of it. So if you want it to be an escape, it's an escape. If you want it to just be a hobby that helps you, then that too can it be.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense.
I think for me, there's a lot of so there's this group of friends that I play with, and then there was the other group of friends that I play with, and they always were shitting all over me for playing Destiny and playing, single player games because that's not what they want to do. And I think that's the type of person who should worry about this sort of thing is constantly playing CS:GO, constantly playing Valorant, constantly playing multiplayer games. They don't have that sort of immerse into a different world. It's constantly their own world that's getting destroyed. If you see someone else's I'm not trying to be all philosophical about this, but if you see someone else's life in a story being hindered, it's easier for you to be like, okay, well, things aren't as bad for me.
Yeah,
It
I
could be
agree.
the situation.
So it almost distracts you from the wrong in your life because let's use Dark Souls. Like
Yeah.
you're fighting giant monsters
Yeah.
in a post-apocalyptic world. You know, depression and anxiety ain't that bad. At least
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think that depression, anxiety may stuck, but you're not stuck in a permanent loop of death and respawn of
right.
just and falling off edges.
Hey man, sometimes it feels that way.
Sometimes
Oh
like
shoot!
sometimes it does feel that way. I will admit. Um, no, I mean like I kind of as a wrap up to this is I think all of us are on the board of video games have done wonders for mental health and relationships, but it has taken somewhat of an effort to realize that there is a balance between real life and gaming.
Yeah.
Like I use gaming as a form of as a conduit for this project, but that doesn't mean that after this I'm gonna wanna play video games for the next 8 hours because I'm talking about anxiety has made me somewhat anxious. Uh, and I think
Funny
that's
how that works.
yeah, I hate how it works, but I think all of us will be able to be able to stop playing games after this and be happy with the conversation we had rather than worry about was the vault space that I was clearing while I was talking about this worth it? Did I get rid of the right things? And all those kind of aspects.
Yeah,
As soon as you
like
start
that.
getting
That's very
stressed out
agree.
with games, it becomes a lot less of a release. Like
Mm.
it doesn't end up as much actually helping you out. And if you get stressed about the stuff in the game, it really doesn't help you. You just end up with more problems.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
totally.
think the big key is always finding like the balance between when I turn the game off is my problems done there. Like last night, I got a little tilted and turned my computer off, and that was it. Didn't say bye to anybody in the call. I just left
Yeah.
because I got pissed and almost broke my mouse. Um,
What
but that
was that trials or?
no, that was solo dungeon. I fell off
solo
a ledge
dungeon,
and I
yeah.
was
Oh
Oh.
yeah.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
dude,
Turn-
I
tough.
I
was.
said I
That'll do it, man.
screamed, slammed my mouse, turned off my computer, but that was it.
Yeah.
Like that was where my frustration ended. I went out to my sister who I live with and I said, "Hey, screw this. Like this sucked." And then I went to bed, and that was it. That was the end of my night. Like, and I was fine, and I woke up completely content with life.
Yeah, and because you didn't allow that situation to get worse.
Exactly. Like I noticed myself getting into bad habits, and I separated myself from it. And it's taken a lot to learn how to do that, but it's been worth it for sure.
Yeah, because I don't think. I mean, that dungeon is inherently kind of broken, and so I think that may teeter on the line of the content of a game making us angry, but
Mm.
inadvertently, I think. I don't think because I think what I'm trying to get at when I say content of a game is shooting people and seeing gore and seeing, you know, I just feel like playing, none of us really play COD. All of us play cell shaded games, and
Oh God, at
but
least for a large part
there's
of my
no
life.
realism in what any of us play.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
agree.
fair.
Because I don't
Yeah.
think, Mirror's Edge is a person running around a futuristic landscape trying to stop a neurovirus that allows the control of humans. And I just don't. I mean, maybe in some reality that's realistic, but that's I'm not playing a World War II simulator.
It would have been interesting to get Fringed on this podcast, or at least eventually, because
Plays a lot of
he's like a
tanks.
milsim guy.
Yeah.
Like he's in in World of Warships, he's in like a whole uh community that has like rankings, like colonel and
Yeah.
stuff. And he was part of like a battlefield milsim at some point too.
That's
So
true.
I
I
wonder
don't know.
why you would like recreate that sort of uh realistic hierarchy in sort of a virtual space. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but obviously he gets something out of it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either because so we're all in the same clan for Destiny, and Gabe is
Loosely.
loosely. Yeah, I mean we all don't really.
I mean,
We
like
play
it's
together,
it's not really like a social thing. It's more of just like a benefit.
Yeah,
Like you get
It's
extra
an in-game
rewards.
benefit.
but
That's
we
an
could
in-game
make
thing.
it a social thing.
Like
And Gabe
we don't
could-
have clan
Yeah.
leaders, Jack. We're not recruiting.
No, I
You
know
know?
that's the thing. That's the thing is Gabe could make it that way. He could be that guy to say,
But
okay,
we're not that kind of people.
exactly because we're not that kind of person because we don't allow what's going on in the game to run how our social lives are, and I think that hierarchy can ultimately damage mental health if it's done poorly. And I bet Fringe, being a part of it for this long, has found a group that is able to do it coherently. I've been a part of just, as it's a weird example, but there's a mobile game called Summoner's War where you are in clans, and I've been part of ones where it's really competitive, and I've been part of ones where it's just fun, and it's so noticeable that the ones where people are competitive but having fun, that's having fun is the main goal, are so much better off as people than people just being competitive and having that hierarchy. You say that Sam and I are better than you guys at Crucible, but we don't. I don't at least try to make it seem like I am. It, sometimes it happens, but I just don't go out of my way to say, I'm gonna carry you. You need a carry because that's who I am. I'm the carry guy.
I see what you're saying. I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
I hope that makes sense. It's a little long-winded argument.
It's like you. That's who you are, but that doesn't define you.
Yeah, and I feel like it could if you are in those hierarchy systems.
Yeah. I think we have a very more relaxed. Like we'd rather have a good time with each other than like what we did in trials yesterday. Like we went. Our goal was to go flawless, but if we didn't, I was content with just hang with you guys. Like that's why I was there. It wasn't necessarily because I needed this in-game validation.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been too upset because we did play streamers, to be honest. I think it would have
Yeah.
just been one of those things.
We definitely played well. I think that was a big thing. I feel like every single one of us, like, I don't think I've ever seen, like, Dewey didn't have a bad game. I had a couple. I
I
think
had a
Jack maybe
lot.
had one or two. But, like, I feel like that's pretty much used when you're on a win streak. Like, you usually just stay happy. Like, after the loss to the streamer, I just kind of didn't care because we already knew coming into that game it was probably going to be a loss. We weren't
There
winning
were-
that at all.
yeah, no chance.
Yeah.
There's no chance. But, like, I think because we knew that, it was just made things 1,000 times easier. It's like, yeah, it's whatever. Just next game, hopefully we don't play him again, and we didn't.
Let's run it back.
It's definitely helped. It's definitely helped, like, going into video games with the idea of, okay, either this is gonna suck or it's not. And if I try to, we had this conversation the other night, not in a, nice capacity, but me saying that, being an asshole about a game doesn't help.
No.
And I know that it's, I'm guilty of this as well. It's really easy to get mad at a video game, but I've tried consciously to enjoy the little things in video games and separate myself from only playing one, because that's what matters, is finding, again, those situations that make you happy in games, because they can be conduits for better mental health. But like I said, it's balance, and it's knowing who you're playing with and having a good time.
That's fair.
All right. Well, we can wrap this up here. Thank you very much for helping me with this. I appreciate it wholeheartedly, and I'll go through and look at it and hope everything turns out okay. And if it does, maybe I'll upload it to YouTube.